Hello, my name is Barbara Dyke and I live in Leander, Texas, which is just north of Austin, Texas. And in this video, we're going to do a tubular snowman. We're going to put seed beads in there. We're going to make him a scarf. We're going to give him a brim and a hat with a hat band. So what we're going to do is I like to use lots of colors. You can do all black to represent cold. You can make his eyes be blue, green, any color you want. Your nose, I chose orange. There's a story behind my orange nose. He did have a carrot there, and a rabbit jumped up and bit his carrot off, so all he has left is this much of his carrot. So that's why we're using orange for the nose. Okay, now we're going to use scraps of yarn that I have left over. We're going to use white. We're using Tam's 3-ply. So we're using white, red, and black. And then we're also going to have a waste yarn. So we're going to start this off on waste yarn. Now, these beads we're going to be using fishing line to put the beads on. I use a 12-pound test of fishing line. It's going to take me years to use this up. And the reason we're going to use fishing line is because these beads are too small for this needle here. This is what they sell with the machines a long time ago. I don't know if they're still available or not, but this was called a beading needle. And the beads we had to use were these big beads, so they had a big enough hole in them in order. But what we're going to use on this one is we're going to use, they're either called seed beads or they're called E-beads. Hobby Lobby and Michael's are pretty well standard, I believe. So Michael's here calls them an E-bead. They say 6-0 E-bead, and Hobby Lobby says 6-0 seed bead. So that's what we're going to use, and you can use a variety of colors. Like I said, you could use all black, and it'd be like the buttons, the nose, the eyes are cold. Or you can do what I like to do, and I like color, so I've added all these colors. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to knit our waste yarn. So we're going to put up, now we want to make sure we get everything centered. So we're going to put up 9 needles on the right and 8 needles on the left. So these are my needles. We're going to do a rack and cast on, but we're going to do it in one by one. So we want to get our needles together. So I'm going to do half my racking cast on by putting my racking handle into the 12 o'clock position. And now I'm going to meet point to point my needles to make sure I get all the correct needles I need up. Now we're going to go ahead and put these in one by one. Okay, now my needles are still point to point. Then we're going to go ahead and finish the racking cast on. Okay, we want to be on with our lock, our waste yarn. We're going to be 4.5, 4.5 on both locks, on both of the locks, in and in, and we're going to knit one row. We don't want these strippers because we're doing double bed right now. So there we go. Now I'm going to pull down, drop my waste yarn string, and I'm going to do just some hand weight. I'm going to use my hand to do some weight for pressure. We're going to go ahead and finish the rack and cast on and knit one row. Now, still holding my waist, I'm going to put my lock set on CX, both beds, and I'm just going to knit some waste yarn on. Okay, now I can go ahead and put my black strippers in because that is for doing the single bed knitting, which is basically what we're doing. And it's waste yarn, so I don't care if some of it drops off the needles. I don't care how ugly my waste yarn is. As long as when I get this done, I do have something to hold on to the white. So I can see right now that this end needles are not knitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my yellow tool, and I'm going to grab this stitch right here. And I'm going to hold it. Now my needles are knitting. And I can leave that yellow tool for right now. So I've put on enough waste yarn. Not quite enough. I want to put on a little more. Okay. Now I've got about 40 rows of waste yarn, and now I'm going to use this. This is a Japanese style weight that I'm going to use. If you don't have these, you can get them from Charlene Schaefer's at the Knick-Knack shop. You can do a Google search on Charlene Schaefer. That's also where I get my yarn from. That her yarn is called Tam 3-ply. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up my white yarn. I'm going to knit 2 rows in the white. Now I'm going to bring, and at this point I also want my racking handle up. You can have it up on the other. I tend to forget things. So my pattern does tell you to put it up with the waste yarn. So here we go. We're bringing every needle up. We're going to set the row count on 0. We're going to start the snowman, and we're going to knit 28 rows. Okay, we are now at row count 28, and we want to take the number 1 needle to the right, and I'm going to bring that up. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting in the buttons now on the snowman. You need to be careful, because if you're not careful, this is what you'll end up with. So unless you want to unravel this whole thing, you got a snowman that's kind of doesn't dress himself very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this needle all the way up behind the latch. Now I've cut me a length of fishing wire, and I folded it in half, and I gave it kind of a bend here. I don't know how well you can see this, but I gave it, it'll make its own. I'm going to hook this into the hook of the needle, and I'm going to pull it all the way through. Now I want to grab up, and I have to pull my yarn, my loop. So see, I've got my needle here. I got my stitch here. So now I'm going to take my first red bead, and I use a little old-fashioned lick the finger. And if you drop the bead, then you can't pick it up. I have trouble. I'm kind of clumsy, and this to me it's a little awkward, but it's still faster than hand knitting one. I'm going to get my double-eyed bobbin, and what I want to do is I want to grab. Now I'm going to pull my fishing wire out and get rid of that. Now I'm going to put this stitch back on the needle. So then I'm going to pull it tight. Now see how these other 2 around it? I want to make sure that that needle or that bead is back behind that needle. Now, because I'm using such large strippers, sometimes the stripper will knock that bead off. So I'm going to take out this side only. I'm going to give a little extra hand tension, and I'm going to knit 2 rows and make sure my bead, it did get knitted in, and we didn't drop the stitch and lose the bead. So we're going to continue knitting to row count 40. Okay, we're at row count 40, so we're going to put in the second button. Again, we want to make sure that we get the number 1 that's on the right hand side, push that up, get our fishing wire, pull the stitch off onto the fishing wire, pull one of the strands of the fishing wire through, rejoin our fishing wire. Now you can make this as long or as short as you feel comfortable with. I'm going to get my button. Oops. Now I do this all the time. I don't have to worry about that. It's not going to hurt the machine. If it dropped in there, you can get it out, but I'm not going to worry about it right now because I know it's not going to affect my knitting. So we're going to go on here, get the double-eyed needle again, and we want to try to make sure we don't split this stitch here. So like I said, it's a little awkward. There we go. I got it. Take out the fishing wire. And I'm going to hang that on. Now the easiest way to get that one I dropped, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to get it out. I'm going to bring that down. It's dropped somewhere down in here. And see, I used two tools. If I can find it. There we go. Now I can easily get it out. I want to pull this pusher out. A little bit of hand weight. Slowly knit across. My bead knitted, so I'm fine. And I'm going to continue, and I'm going to knit to the third button, which is row 52, row count 52. So, okay, we did it to row 52. We're going to put our final bead, our final button, not our final bead, but our final button. Again, we're at the one to the right. Get my fishing wire, the fishing line. It's plastic, it's not a wire. Pull it through. Join it together. Like I said, I'm a little clumsy. Get up my last red bead for his buttons. Now if I was going to put a green scarf or a green hatband on him, then I would use green beads to make my buttons. Or if you got some leftover blue, there's no reason why you can't have blue or gold or any other color for your scarf and your hatband. I'm just using these colors. Okay. Make sure these are nice and that bead's behind the latch. Okay. And we're going to knit 2 more rows. Okay. Now we're going to knit to row count 74. So we're at row count 74. We're going to do the nose. So we're going to again use that number 1 needle to the right. Get our fishing line. Now we want an orange bead for a carrot nose, or we want a black bead for a cold nose. And we're going to, I'm really good about dropping that one, hit the floor. So, I got the line in. Yeah, I got it on. I couldn't find any color wire. If you could find some color fishing line, it might be better than this clear for you to see better. But at the time we were looking, I didn't see any fishing line in color that was the right thickness that I wanted. And if you got a fisherman husband, go steal some fishing line from him. Okay, let's get that. Gotta get the needle in. Okay. There we go. Finally got it. Okay, pop onto that hook. I'm pulling down with my hand underneath. Now I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to go ahead and knit 4 rows because that's where we want to be to do the eyes. So we're going to knit to row count 78. That's just 4 rows. Now we're going to do the eyes. So what we're going to use is we're going to use number 3 needle to the right and number 2 needle on the left. And what we will have 3 needles in between the eyes, and you can see if you're looking down, you can barely see your orange bead right there, so you want that nose to be centered. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the fishing wire, and I want to go ahead and work to my left, and I'm going to pull this onto the fishing wire. These are the last two beads we're going to be needing to do. So I got my beads together, and I'm going to give them this one blue eyes. You can give them, like I said earlier, green eyes, brown eyes, black eyes. Drop that. I'm really good about dropping my beads on the floor. My husband really loves me for that, because it's usually he's usually the one that steps on it. So I want my double-eyed bucking again. Okay. I don't want to accidentally lose this off the fishing wire, because then I'll have to start all over again. There we go, I got it. And we're going to pop this one in. There we go. Got it hooked in. Okay, we're going to get the last seed bead eye, so we're going to go ahead and hook it in, and we're going to pull it through. We're going to join it together, and we're going to pick up a blue bead, so we're going to center that in. There we go. Now my double-eyed bucking again. You can go in either way. Oh, that was good. That just did really easy then. Pull that out, and we're going to drop it on. Okay. Now, as long as we don't drop this off, we're doing real good. So I'm gonna knit 2 rows. I'm going to put my black stripper back in, and I can tell my beads knitted off. So I'm going to finish the snowman's head, so I'm going to knit to row count 92. Okay, I've knitted to row count 92. Now I'm going to pick up my black, and I'm going to put it on row count 0. And I'm going to knit 16 rows in the black to start. This is going to be the brim of the hat. Okay, I've knitted 16 rows. Now I'm going to put the black up, and I'm going to pick up my red yarn, and I'm going to knit 4 rows of the red. There's my hat band. Now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to pick up the black again. Okay, now I'm going to make sure. Now I know on the scarves I told you to be sure and pull down a length of yarn. This is 2 little rows. It's a snowman, so I've knitted just 2 rows, so I'm not going to worry about that little black coming up into the hat band. So I'm not going to pull down a loop and worry about a loop, but I do want to make sure I do not get a loop. So I'm going to knit, and this will finish off the hat pretty much. I'm going to knit 22 more rows, so I'm going to knit to row count 42. Okay, I have knitted to row count 42, and what I'm going to do is now we're going to put, so that we can gather the hat up at the end, we're going to go to every other needle again. to move to the back, and I'm gonna add a little extra hand tension underneath, just kind of giving it hold. Want to make sure those empty needles are completely out of work. Whoops. Okay, we've now got 2 stitches, and I'm trying to give some hand tension underneath. Now this is going to be a little bit of a tight knit off, but we're going to knit 2 more rows. Okay, and I want to make sure everything, I did not drop any stitches. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, here's the waist yarn, I'm going to cut that and get that out of my way. And then I want to find the white. I'm going to need some sewing length for the white, so I'm going to cut that with some length. And I'm going to need some sewing length with the black, because I'm fixing to sew this off the machine. Now if you want to do more than one Santa, this would be a good time to add more waist yarn, about 20 rows or so, and then start over with your next Santa, and just keep going, and just move up your weights as you go, and then you'll have your multiple Santas. That's a lot easier than sewing off. Then you can sit in front of the TV and sew your loops off. So I want my double-dyed bucking. Okay, so I'm going to pull this. I'm going to completely sew it off, put that needle out of work. We're going to sew off the front bed first. Okay, we got it accidentally caught on this needle. You want to be careful about that. Now I'm going to take the weight off with these last 2 stitches. I'm going to use my hand to tension. So I'm going to sew off this one. See, it's caught that loop again. It's caught there we go. And I'm going to sew off this last loop. Okay, I see I'm still connected with the red, so I'm just going to break the red off. And I dropped my double-eyed balking, but I'll get that in a minute. So this is what it looks like when it comes off the machine. My buttons are lined up. My eyes and my nose are in good shape. So